In an undisclosed location, two people are being kept prisoner. One of them is wearing military-like clothing, while the other has a simple tracksuit on him. The military guy begins speaking, expressing his apology to the professor. The professor rebukes this apology, saying that all of this happened because of him. The soldier starts thinking about the events that got him in this situation, expressing his anger at the informant who had betrayed them, saying that the enemy force was much larger than anticipated, and that they knew their route and attack timings perfectly. This was a trap from the very beginning. Some clanks happened beyond the door, and it shortly opens, one of the guards throwing another soldier into the holding cell, who we find out is named Sergeant Kim. The other soldier is visibly angry at seeing another soldier treated this way, and gets up to spout insults at their captor. The guard saying something in a language that we can't understand, and promptly bashes the soldier's head with an assault rifle. We get a peek at this captor, showing us that he is of African descent, meaning this whole ordeal might be happening in one of the many war-torn countries in that continent. Kim asks the other soldier if he's okay, calling him lieutenant. The lieutenant says he's fine, and asks about the other troops, who Kim says that they were dragged off someplace else. More clanks happened outside the door, and again, it shortly opens after. One of the guards looking down at them. That's when he falls to the ground, knocked out by a person who was behind him, who asks if Lieutenant Kang Ham-chan is here. The lieutenant is surprised to hear Korean coming from this stranger's mouth, and asks who he is. The stranger says that he is here to rescue them, and they all begin following him. We see the results of this stranger's arrival, with multiple guards knocked out cold, Kang expressing his surprise. Kang then asks the stranger about his division, and how many people he is with. The stranger says that he cannot disclose this information, and that he is alone. Kang is again surprised by this, thinking that how could a single person do this? Stealthily, too. A door suddenly opens and a guard comes out, who is reaching for his gun after he saw them. Kang is prepared to open fire, but before he can do anything, the stranger sprints at the guards and incapacitates the first one with 2 swift blows, and taking the other one out with a knife throw. The stranger talks with the soldiers, saying that they will increase their pace, and that he will take care of the enemies. Kang agrees, annoyed at the fact that he's basically treating them like baggage. The stranger moves swiftly, and quickly defeats any guards that try to stop him. Kang noticed that there will be multiple enemies beyond the next corner, and that the stranger will need help with this one. The stranger, however, keeps moving, and dashes in front of the guards, silently taking all of them out. Kang is shocked at his disregard for life, saying that he is a true monster, but he is too reckless, and it's clear that he's not from the military. They make it outside, and the stranger tells them to wait here for 1 minute. Kang is puzzled by this, but notice the other soldiers behind them, who are clearly out of breath, showing the stranger's ability to observe. Kang notices the stranger's black pupils, and his clumsy but overall good Korean. Kang asks if he is Korean, but the stranger doesn't respond, and waits a bit until saying that time is up, and they begin moving again. Kang wondering if he is correct. After a while they make it to a clearing, where the other soldiers who were captured are waiting for them. Both parties happy that they reunited. Kang asks what happened to them, and they say that the stranger also saved them, and told them to wait here. The stranger proclaims that this is where they part ways, and that if they go southwest there will be people waiting for them. Kang expresses his gratitude, but the stranger says there's no need for thanks, and that he simply carried out a request. Kang confirms his suspicion of him being a mercenary, and offers him a handshake, saying that even if it was a request, he would still like to give his thanks. The stranger looks at Kang's hand, and that's when an explosion comes out of the bushes, surprising them both. The stranger screams for everyone to get down, an explosion occurring right as he finished his sentence. Kang gets discombobulated by the explosion, but he manages to survive, saying that the explosion was from mortar rounds. He looks for his people and finds that they are safe, the explosion having missed them. Suddenly gunshots can be heard, and we see the stranger retaliating at the attackers. Kang is extremely surprised by his appearance, and rightly so, because the stranger looks just like a teenager, showing us that he is quite young. It cuts to 6 months later, and we see the outside of a school. Inside, a teacher is presenting a new student to a class, who is the stranger that helped the soldiers escape. While presenting himself, we finally get his name, Ijin. Inside the school, a girl thinks about her brother. Her thinking gets cut short after a girl comes into class screaming about a new student, who is apparently very good-looking. The girl knows that they are talking about her brother, the brother she never expected to be alive due to a plane crash that occurred while he was inside. Inside an airport, she looks longingly at Ijin, who we find out is her brother. Next to him is an old man, who is gently touching his face while crying, expressing his surprise and happiness at him returning alive. The girl questions if that is really her brother. That's when Ijin looks at her and gently smiles at her, saying that she must be Dayun. Her thinking is interrupted by a girl, who is annoyed at Dayun for ignoring her for so long. The girl demands Dayun's gym clothes later during PE, and asks if he brought them. Dayun says that she did, but if she gives them to the girl, what will she wear? The girl scoffs at Dayun and calls her insane for talking back to them, slapping her across the head. The girl is clearly bullying Dayun and asks if she wants to get beaten up in front of everyone to the point of crying again, showing us that this bullying has gone on for a while. We cut back to the class that Ijin is attending, where the teacher is still presenting him to the class, saying that he was living abroad for personal reasons, and that they should help him adjust to his new life. The girls are all quite infatuated with him. The teacher tells him to take a seat in an empty seat, and he obliges. While walking to his seat, a guy with red hair and an orange tracksuit glares at him, wondering why people are fawning over him, and that he looks pretty weak. Big words coming from someone that looks like he's trying to cosplay a Oompa Loompa. The guy tries to humiliate Ijin by trying to trip him, but Ijin notices instantly and stops. The guy is surprised by this, thinking that he timed it perfectly. Ijin glares at him, which annoys him. That's when Ijin thinks about what he discussed with Kong, the lieutenant. Kong told him to avoid fighting while living in Korea, and Ijin obliges, saying that he won't engage in battle if he doesn't have enough data about the place, and that he has no intention of moving too hastily and getting killed. Ijin says that he is a professional who lived on the battlefield for 10 years, quite a lot considering his age. Kang stops him from his rant, saying that's not why he's telling him this, and more so for his opponent, expressing his worry for anyone he faces. The teacher noticed that Ijin is standing still, and asks why he stopped moving. Ijin apologies, and continues walking to the seat. The guy says that Ijin is scared out loud, but Ijin ignores him. The teacher tells the student next to Ijin to take care of him, and we find that the student is named Park Yuncheon. Yuncheon obliges and exchanges greeting with Ijin. Yuncheon warns Ijin about the person who tried to trip him, who is named Lee Jaehyun. He says to be careful around him and his friend, Ju Hyukjin, who is now chatting with Lee. Ijin thanks him for all the information. That's when the math teacher walks into class and begins the lesson. Ijin notices the people around him, some sleeping, some laughing at something on the phone, and some are outside in gym clothes. He thinks about his mercenary days, and we see a glimpse of the hellish training he went through, noting that this country is peaceful while looking into the sky. School ends, and we see Dayun walking to the school gates. She spots Ijin, who was waiting for her. She is quite surprised by this. Ijin asks if she wants to go home together, and she obliges. While walking back, a silence falls on them. Ijin saying that this must be quite awkward. Dayun saying that it's not really that awkward, only just a little. Ijin says that there's no need to be so flustered, and that he feels the same. He was only 9 during the incident, meaning that he barely has memories of her or their grandfather, saying that it must be worse for her since she was only 7. This means that Ijin is 19 and Dayun is 17. They walk silently for a while, but one of girls who was bullying her spots Dayun, who gets nervous, thinking about what she should do. The girl taunts Dayun, asking who the boy next to her is, mocking her by saying it must be her boyfriend, and that even she can date. Dayun jumps at the notion, saying that it's her brother, the girl surprised by this notion. Ijin asks if she's a friend, and Dayun sheepishly says that she is. The girl gets annoyed by this, and asks Dayun if she is her friend. Dayun is visibly shaking, and the girl asks again. Ijin stares at the group, one of them being angry at his staring, getting up from his seat, the other one asking if he's out of his mind. Ijin thinks that they are picking a fight, one of them slowly approaching them, proclaiming that you meet all kinds out here. He stands face to face with Ijin and says that he's only trying to act cool in front of his sister. Ijin notes all his mistakes, thinking that he's closing in the distance like it's nothing, with his weak spots exposed and without a weapon to boot. He is puzzled at his confidence, and he remembers the words of Kong, deciding to leave this guy alone. The guy, fed up with Ijin ignoring him, he grabs him by the shirt and prepares to slap him. That's when Dayun bows her head in apologies, saying that he lived abroad for a long time, and he is not used to the culture. The guy rebukes this, asking what does that have to do with him. Ijin looks at his sister, who is looking horrified at what is transpiring. Ijin suddenly jabs the guy's hand and drops his backpack on the ground. He goes to Dayun and tells her to stand still for a bit, gently putting his blazer on her head. The guy tries to come from behind with an attack, but he swiftly gets knocked out with one punch. The other two surprised at this performance. Ijin is annoyed that he had to break the promise he made to the lieutenant in the first day. The other guy is now visibly sweating and is very confused at what just occurred. It cuts to a military zone where some people are training. We see Kong looking at them. That's when a soldier comes behind him, saying that today is the day that Ijin goes to school. It seems that they have educated him for half a year, and they hope that he adjusts well. Kang confidently says that he will be fine. He trained Ijin after all. It cuts to the conflict MC is in, right when he knocks the first guy out. The guy is knocked out cold, just from one hit. Ijin swiftly dashes to the other person and punches him right in the gut, throwing him over the small balcony and knocking him out instantly as well. The girl is shocked at the outcome of the fight, and Ijin looks at her with killing intent. Dayun takes the blazer that was on her head off and wonders what happened to the guys that were picking a fight, seeing them knocked out cold. Ijin walks past the girl, right to Dayun, and asks her if she was surprised, offering to buy some food for her, Dayun reassuring him that it's okay. Ijin says that they should go home, and we get a glimpse of just how well-built he is, with his muscles showing even through his clothes. The girl looks at him for a second, asking if it's really the same person that knocked two people out in an instant, because he's treating Dayun so gently. They leave, and the girl is left dumbfounded. While walking back, Dayun asks if he knocked out the guys that were threatening them, and he says yes. Dayun says that it's rude to stare at people, and they might get angry. Ijin says that he knows, but he did all of that because it looked like they were causing her trouble. She flares up at this notion, and blushes heavily, Ijin wondering if it's because it's something he said. At home, his grandpa is pleading with him to not do the dishes, and instead sit and to eat some fruit. Ijin refuses, saying that he should sit down while he does the dishes. While doing the dishes, his grandpa says that he hopes the food was to his liking, and that he prepared the food to the best of his abilities. Ijin says that he always enjoys his cooking, and the food is always delicious, his grandpa clearly being happy about the compliment. He then asks about the first day of school, and says if there were any problems. Ijin looks back at Dayun, and says that there were none. They all wish each other good night, and head to bed. While sitting in his bed, Ijin thinks about the things that happened up to this point, at how his grandpa kindly welcomed him, showing the amount of food he made for him. While sleeping, Ijin dreams about the day of the crash, and we see a glimpse of what happened, his parents protecting him while the plane was falling to its doom. He jolts awake, relieved that it was just a dream. He goes out of his room and sees Dayun preparing him breakfast. Ijin notices that his grandfather is missing, Dayun noting that he left for work. Ijin slightly surprised at the notion. Dayun also hurries to the door, saying that she has to leave early. Ijin looks at the food on the table, which is quite a lot of leftovers from last night. It cuts to the girl who witnessed the fight previously, who is explaining to the girl that is bullying Dayun, her name being Ijin, that the guy who knocked all her friends out was Dayun's brother. We then see that after Ijin and Dayun left, Ijin happened to pass the group of bullies, demanding to know what happened to them. The girl asks herself if they would really be okay if they keep bullying Dayun, remembering what Ijin did and the glare he gave her afterwards. But she reassures herself, saying that Ijin's brother is the alpha among the third years. We cut to Dayun suddenly being slapped across the head, and we see that it was Ijin, who demands for Dayun to follow her. Dayun does so, and it cuts to outside of the school, where Dayun is now getting beaten up. Ijin saying that she warned her about acting out. Ijin says that her brother's life is going to be tiresome too, implying that her brother is going to Ijin right now, and that he probably met him already. Dayun screams in retaliation, but gets slapped. Ijin annoyed at her screaming. Dayun gets up and runs to Ijin's class, where we see that Ijin's brother and his goons are already inside it. She makes it before they could do anything, and screams for her brother. Ijin sees her all tattered, red across the face due to the slap, and her clothing all muddied. his eyes turning predatory. Heejin's brother scoffs at this and asks Dayun if she's worried about him. Heejin coming out of the doorway and saying that even she would be worried if her brother got beat up. Judging by Ijin's look, things will not end well for them. A few moments prior to the incident, we see Lee and Ju bullying Youngchan, throwing erasers at him, trying to aim for his head. Ju asks a classmate for his eraser rather intimidatingly, and he obliges. This eraser is quite big, and he hits Youngchan in the head, who is uncomfortable with this. Lee and Ju bicker between each other, with Lee saying that he just got lucky, and it's just because he did it with a big eraser. He picks up a bigger eraser, who looks quite hard, and throws it with all his might, but that's when Ijin comes in front of the victim, blocking the projectile with his backpack. They are quite annoyed at this, and when Ijin sits down, they plan to call him over after school to make him stop being annoying. Ijin asks Youngchan if he is okay, and he reluctantly says yes, with Ijin noticing the bullies looking at him and laughing. Youngchan asks Ijin if he is doing anything after school. If not, he can show him around. Ijin declines, saying that he has to go home with his sister today. Youngchan is interested at this notion, asking if they transferred together. Ijin says that she was already in school, and Youngchan asks her name. When he hears the name Dayun, he immediately panics, and with sadness on his face, he tells Ijin that his sister's school life is rather difficult, because she was quite popular with the boys since middle school due to her being pretty, and there was a girl who had a crush on one of the boys. That's how they started bullying Dayun. Ijin is surprised that people would just let this happen, but Youngchan says that it's because the girl's older brother is Kim Kisu, the top dog in the third year's class 3. Youngchan continues, saying that this harassment got even worse, as she was in the same class as the main girl bully when they started school, getting so bad that people were surprised she was still attending school. Ijin tries to understand all this, finding it quite dumb that she would bully Dayun for such an idiotic reason. Youngchan says that once you learn the truth, it's nothing special. People like them don't need any special reason to bully. Ijin thinks back at what they talked with his grandpa, who asked Dayun if her school life is going well. Dayun obviously lying that it is, with a tinge of sadness on her face. Ijin thanks him for the information, and that's when a large guy, the same one Ijin beat up at the store, bashes the door of the class, with a group of other people following him. Ju asks what they're doing here, but that's when Kim Kisu responds, saying that there's something that he wants, with the group surprised that he is here. Kim's goons point him to Ijin, who bashes them for losing against such a guy, noting that he looks quite frail. He beckons Ijin to get up, and he does so. Ijin asks if he is Kim, with Kim surprised that he already knows his name. Ijin glares at him, which annoys Kim, ordering one of his goons to bring him over here. While the goon approaches Ijin, his sister suddenly rushes in, bruised and dirty. Ijin takes in the sight, and his eyes turn cold. Kim says that he is quite jealous Ijin has such a caring sister, with Haijin suddenly responding that she would be worried too if her brother was about to be beaten up. Dayun looks at the amount of people that are going after Ijin and begins crying, apologizing to him. Ijin says that there is no need to apologize, suddenly throwing a right hook at the guy that's in front of him, knocking him out cold. Ijin assures her that none of this is her fault. Another goon tries to punch Ijin, but to no avail, as Ijin redirects his punch, hitting his exposed windpipe. The goon instantly falls to his knees, surely having a hard time breathing. One of the last goons panics, desperately trying to hit Ijin. This, however, is what dooms him, as he is extremely exposed. Ijin throws a kidney shot, landing the hit and toppling the guy over. Everyone is left shocked at this outcome, even Kim. Ijin glares at the brother and sister, who are left shaken by this. Kim notes that Ijin knows a few tricks, Ijin ignoring him completely. Kim tries to hit Ijin in the neck with his leg, thinking at first that he got him. His illusions disappear, however, as he sees that Ijin blocked the attack perfectly. Kim panics and throws another attack on the other side, Ijin easily blocking this one. He grabs Kim's leg and punches him directly in the face, throwing him on the ground. Ijin glares at him with murderous intent, and with one final attack, he knocks Kim out. Everyone is surprised he could defeat Kim, Lee, and Ju even more so. He approaches Haijin, clenching his fist as he does so. Haijin is sure that he will hit her, but that's when Dayun stops him, saying it's enough. Ijin retorts this notion, asking if these aren't the same people that bullied her. She says that it's fine now, and he should stop. Ijin does so, and offers to take her back to class. In the class, Kim's sister is fuming at the sight of her brother and his friends beaten up. While walking, Dayun notes that Ijin is quite good at fighting, and also apologizes again, saying that it's because of her he got into fights 2 days in a row. Ijin says that he would happily fight for her, saying that from where he used to live, people would just think only about themselves. There were exceptions, however. It was when family got involved. It cuts to a flashback Ijin as a mercenary, wondering what exactly a family was, seeing a man protecting his daughter from his attacks. Dayun asks how can this be, knowing that he barely remembers her and Grandpa. He says that she is right, but he knows for sure that they are family. Dayun gets embarrassed at this, and tells Ijin that she will walk the rest of the way alone. Ijin asks why, but they are already in front of her class. She waves goodbye, Ijin smiling at her shyness. He arrives back to class, Lee and Ju congratulating him over his victory, with Ju saying that it looked like he was smurfing. He sits in his seat, and Youngchan shyly says that he thinks Ijin looked cool too. In another place, Kim and his goons lament what happened, with Kim noting that Ijin is in a completely different league. His sister keeps bashing him, wondering how they could lose to one person. Kim, having had enough of her yapping, tells her to shut up, with her not backing down at all. With one final menacing glare from Kim, she gets so mad a tear forms in her eye, and leaves, slamming the door behind her. She goes back to class, where she mockingly says to Dayun that her life will be easy from now on, as she can rely on her brother for anything. Dayun ignores Ijin, which makes her extremely mad. She wonders if she just has to watch Dayun quietly from now on, saying that there's no way she would do such a thing. While walking to the school gate, Dayun thinks about her brother, who protected her, but also at the bullying she has received up until now, wondering if it's really over. With this much thinking, she passes Ijin without noticing him, who asks her if she has something on her mind. She apologizes for not noticing him, but he doesn't mind. Dayun says that they should stop by the store to pick up some things, as their grandpa likes to have dinner prepared when he comes home. Behind them, Ijin glares and smiles a sinister smile, clearly plotting something. Inside the shop, Dayun notices how popular Ijin is based off just his looks, with a couple of girls talking about him. She asks if he's ever had a girlfriend before, who says that he hasn't. Dayun is surprised, noting how popular he is here. He surely must have been there too. Ijin looks at the ground for a second, before replying that he was just busy. He asks her the same question, the answer being the same as his. Inside the apartment, Ijin's grandpa gifts him a phone, apparently the newest model. The grandpa says that he had to unbox the phone to put the phone numbers in, hoping Ijin is not upset at this. He also says that he will buy Dayun a phone too, once he has money. Dayun shuts down this notion, saying that her current one works just fine. While they chat, Ijin thanks his grandpa, who is giddy at Ijin's appreciation. Inside his bedroom, he smiles at his new gift, sending a text message to the lieutenant, who wonders why Ijin has a new phone, considering he already bought him an expensive one. In the morning, while getting out of the bathroom after a shower, he sees Dayun rushing for the door, saying that she is late. She also prepared him a meal. While running, she says that she'll make it on time. We find out why she is late, saying that Grandpa liked the soup so much that she remade it in the morning as well. While thinking about her grandpa's appreciation, she suddenly gets kicked to the ground by a pack of thugs, who are all female. One of them says to watch where she's going. Dayun apologizes, but gets slapped instantly. One of them suggests they should go to karaoke, with everyone agreeing. One of them crouches to Dayun's level, saying she must come too. From Dayun observation and her blonde hair, this seems to be Ijin. They go inside the karaoke building, but only the three of them come out. The worker, seeing that they have finished singing, notes how loud they were screaming in there, saying they must have a lot of energy. He opens the booth that they were in, and is shocked to find Dayun on the ground, beaten to a pulp. She gets up, and refusing a 911 call, leaves the premises on her last legs. At school, the teacher makes attendance, with Dayun not being there. Ijin smiles at this, knowing why she isn't in class. One of her lackeys asks if they're going to be okay, but she says to stop worrying, as they had nothing to do with it, almost sure Ijin won't find out. He waits outside the school gate for her, and seeing that she isn't coming, calls her. He calls her, but she doesn't respond, as Dayun is curled up inside her sheets, most likely crying. Ijin arrives home, noting her shoes. He goes to her door, knocking on it. She responds to his questions in a raspy voice, him noticing this as well. Dayun makes the excuse of being sick, Ijin not pushing this matter any further. While going back, he spots her shoes once again, but this time he observes that there is blood on them, his eyes once again growing cold at the sight. We cut to Ijin treating her wounds, probably barging in her room out of concern. She lies about what happened, saying that she tried to dodge a bike and fell down some stairs, thus getting the injuries. Ijin asks her if she doesn't want to go to the hospital, but she declines, because they will find out it wasn't some stairs that caused this. We see a bit of her past, probably when this bullying first began, where Dayun tries to blame Ijin for her injuries, saying that she bullies her constantly. It seems that Dayun also called some cops to the scene, but to no avail, as her accusations get shut down by Ijin's mother, who is furious at this. The mother asks Dayun to call her parents. With this being the last drop, she breaks down crying. Ijin notices that she is deep in thought, saying that even though the injuries aren't that severe, she will have to suffer for a few days. Dayun notices Ijin's skill in medical care, and also that their grandpa might not take this well, as he has heart problems. Ijin assures her that he will talk to him, walking out of her room. Dayun stops him to say thanks, thinking that it was a good decision to not tell Ijin what really happened. Students like them can't do anything. Outside of her room, Ijin is surrounded by a frightening red aura. Inside a club, Kim talks with his goons about the situation, still bruised up. One of them says that they can't let this go, and that they went unprepared. Kim suggests that they don't need to fight one-on-one, as they aren't martial artists, all of them grinning in agreement. His sister calls him, who tells him about what she did. Kim is surprised by this, but also very pleased, saying that they were planning to do something to Ijin too. A figure pops out of the shadows, that figure being Ijin. Kim is shocked at his presence, saying that he wanted to have a revenge match anyway. He doesn't get to finish his sentence, as Ijin grabs the head of a goon, bashing him in the ground. Another tries to swing but gets a left hook instead, knocking him out. They all try to rush him, with one of them being kicked and thrown into the wall. He moves on to his next target, and one of them pops up behind him with a bottle, seeming like they've taken him by surprise. His reaction is swift, however, as he disarms one of them and knocks both of his attackers out. He takes care of the last one, Kim again shocked at his combat skills. Ijin glares at him, this being the first time he seems genuinely mad. He warns Kim one last that they should not mess with his sister. Kim is shaking, thinking of the battle prowess of his opponent, wondering how he could beat such a guy. He grabs an empty glass and throws it, missing Ijin. He swiftly grabs a bottle and attacks Ijin, who quickly makes short work of him. In his frenzy, he breaks the bottle, trying to shank Ijin. Without a single shred of fear inside him, Ijin moves fast to incapacitate Kim, grabbing him by the neck and choking him. Ijin threatens Kim, saying that this is his final warning, and if he doesn't oblige, he will do unspeakable things to them, a red tinge lighting up in his eyes. He lets go of Kim and slowly walks out of the bar, the patrons shocked at this display. Outside the bar, Ijin rushes to the entrance, wondering what could have happened to her brother that he would end the call so abruptly. She sees Ijin slowly rise from the bar stairs and is rightly terrified. Ijin backs up in fear, tripping on her hand, dislocating it. Ijin suddenly gets a call from his grandfather and leaves. She goes into the bar, in awe at what happened to her brother. Ijin bashes him once again, with Kim replying that they shouldn't go after his sister anymore. He warns her, but she doesn't listen. The dam breaks, and he lets out a shout, calling Ijin by her full name. She is horrified, and he exclaims that if she ever lays his hands on Ijin's sister again, he will beat her instead. Outside, Ijin meets with his grandfather, both sitting on a bench. They talk about what happened with Dayun, him saying that it was difficult to raise her, as he's never had a girl before, and also that he hasn't done enough for her. He looks back, saying that she did much more for him, because she helped him get through the loss of Ijin's parents. He notes that it hurts him that Dayun doesn't confide in him, but Ijin gently reassures him that from what he saw, he loves Dayun, but she also loves him. A sense of relief washing over him. Ijin says that he will watch over her at school. His grandfather says that Ijin has no idea how happy he is that he's here. Inside of a hospital, Kim and Ijin's parents talk with them, The father is not surprised to see Kim in this state, as he is quite the troublemaker. The mother gets angry at this, wondering why her husband is not angry at the sight of their children getting hurt. With a final farewell, the parents leave, with only the siblings remaining in the room. We find out that Ijin was the one who told her parents what happened and who did it. Kim wonders if it was really Ijin who injured her arm. Ijin, obviously lying, says that it really was him, sweating while doing so. While leaving, Ijin brags that he should take it easy, as they will show him who he decided to mess with. While walking through a hall, their parents talk about the situation, the mother saying that she contacted the chief. He is annoyed at this, saying they should just leave it to the school. The mother is mad at him once again to his carelessness, saying that she doesn't know the kind of man the chief is. It also seems that Ijin has been listening to this conversation. Outside of a construction site, we see the chief, a pretty well-built man with quite a gangsterous look, donning a black suit. He expresses his frustration, wondering why he got dragged into this children's squabble. Inside his home, Ijin thinks at what happened, wondering if this is the end of it. It appears not, however, as two large men are asking for him outside of his door, the grandpa quite puzzled at this. Ijin gets out of his room and says that they are acquaintances of his, and that he will be right back, leaving his grandfather shocked. They take him back to the warehouse, one of them saying to the chief that he decided to come quietly. The chief says to get it over with quickly, with one of them grabbing a bat, saying the other one should grab his arm. One of them quips that Ijin shouldn't have messed with those kids, letting Ijin know that this is about Kisu. The chief is slightly annoyed at his underlings spouting unnecessary information, noting that he will have to punish him later. He takes a quick peek at Ijin, but is surprised to find Ijin not showing any emotion, let alone be scared. Ijin quickly grabs the arm of one of the underlings and strikes him, leaving him confused. The other one quickly swings for his head, but Ijin swiftly and skillfully grabs the bat in his arm and uppercuts the attacker, leaving him knocked out with just a few hits. The other one wakes from his confusion, grabbing Ijin from behind with all his might, but with two rapid elbow strikes, he is down a swell. The chief notes his combat skills, saying that he can't be a normal high schooler, lamenting the idea of having to fight one at his age while approaching Ijin. He notes that he is full of openings, but that's when he strikes. Ijin shocked at his speed. He dodges most of his blows and tries to go in for an attack, but the chief moves swiftly, Ijin having to retreat while blocking a blow. The chief asks once again who he is, Ijin replying that he is just a normal high schooler. The chief notes that he is very different from some street thugs, accounting for his skill. Ijin gets into a stance, and the chief rushes him, but to no avail, as Ijin only blocks and counters his attacks, him getting annoyed at this. He charges a mighty punch, but it's redirected by Ijin, who looks at him knowingly. He blitzes the chief, leaving him on the ground. With the last of his conscience, he thinks that those kids messed with the wrong person. Inside of a building, Ijin's parents wait for the news, the mother being surprised it's been so much time without any news. The phone finally rings, and the father answers. He apologizes his wife sent out such a pointless task, but the chief says he should be apologizing instead, as he has been beaten. The father is shocked at this, noting that the chief is respected even in the underworld. A door slowly opens, Ijin coming out of it, much to the surprise of the family. Outside of this room, we see Ijin has taken care of the guards quietly. The call abruptly closes, leaving the chief to think that Ijin probably already got there. Inside, Ijin suddenly rises up in shock, making her mother throw a tantrum at Ijin, threatening him. The father promptly shuts his wife's mouth and talks with Ijin, asking how he got here. Ijin mockingly says that there were guards guarding it, making him think about what the chief said, wondering how he even found this place. The mother, having had enough of this, calls the police, Ijin giddy at her mother's actions. She thinks of calling a prosecutor, while asking Ijin if he knows who he is messing with. Ijin responds, saying that he does. The father is a congressman elected twice and running for the next election too. Ijin smirks, whispering to Ijin that his life is over. While the mother is speaking with the congressman, Ijin pulls out his phone and plays a video. The video contains content of Ijin bullying and stealing from a fellow classmate. The mother, seeing this, closes the call immediately. Ijin wonders how he got this footage, and it seems like Ijin got it from the surveillance cameras, keeping it safe inside a memory stick. Ijin tries to plead with her father, but to no avail, as he has had enough of her. Ijin says that he has footage of Kim too, noting that these two would often film themselves bullying. With the amount of footage amassed, the mother bashes Ijin, wondering if he thinks these threats will work. Ijin shuts her down, saying it isn't his fault to begin with, and that he also filmed what happened to him at the warehouse. The father caves in, noting Ijin's dedication to his sister. He says that he will provide money for the medical bills and such, but Ijin shuts this offer down. He asks if he wants his kids to apologize, with Haejin noting that she would rather bite her tongue. Ijin rejects this offer too, saying that he wants both Kim and Haejin to permanently stay out of his sister's sight. The defeated father says that he will move them overseas, much to the dismay of Haejin and her mother. Ijin says he will like her gone by tomorrow. Haejin bursts in tears at the thought. The father asks for the footage, but Ijin glares at him, his eyes turning a bloody red, asking if he thinks he's an idiot. The father, scared, apologizes. Ijin arrives home, where his family worrisomely welcomes him, who is surprised at this. He talks with them, his grandpa saying he thought those people were dangerous, Dayun adding that they gave off a bad vibe. He says not to worry, as she should look after herself, asking how she is doing now. She sheepishly says she is fine. Ijin tells her that she won't be falling down the stairs anymore, as he cleared it out, she being quite puzzled at this. The next day at school, they talk outside of Dayun's classroom, who says that he doesn't have to take her anymore, as she is almost fully recovered. She goes inside the classroom and hears the news that Haejin and her brother are transferring overseas, the other students glad at this piece of information. Dayun remembers what her brother said and runs back into the hall where Ijin is. She calls for him, but no words come out of her mouth, wondering what she could say to him. He gently smiles at her and gives a knowing "see you later," making her burst into tears. Inside a karaoke place, Haejin's clique talk about her, wondering if she really will be moving abroad. The attention goes to Iyung, who is in the same class as her. She says that it must be so, because Haejin isn't responding to anything. Iyung wonders if it's because of Ijin, scared while doing so. Suddenly Haejin comes in the room, much to the surprise of the girls. They ask if she is really moving abroad, and she says it's for 1 semester, thinking that her father will take care of it. She also says that it's a family matter. She can't say it's because of Ijin after all. One of them asks about Ijin, wondering if her brother took care of it. She dodges the question, instead proposing to educate Dayun one more time. She also thinks they should target her grandpa, saying she will contact her mother to put him out of work. Someone speaks from behind them, a masked figure appearing, who is Ijin. Haejin gets up and screams his name, but he plays stupid, saying he is not him. He says that they were having an interesting conversation, and also that everyone from the video is here. The video where Dayun got beaten up. They all freeze in fear. Ijin asks them if they are not going to play any music, since they like being noisy, closing the door with malicious intent while doing so. Inside the hospital where Kim is kept, his parents talks with him, asking where Haejin is. He says that she went to say goodbye to her friends, but that's when one of the congressman's subordinates opens the TV to show something. The news article is about Haejin's and Kim's gruesome actions, seeming like Ijin leaked the videos, much to the dismay of the parents. Outside, the chief asks Ijin why he did such a thing, wondering if he didn't have a deal. Ijin thinks about it. With their parents being politicians, he had to solve this quietly. He responds and says that he has a twister personality, with the chief saying that it's foolish to think the congressman will let this go quietly. He will have no time for that, however, as Ijin has stolen some dirt the chief had on the congressman. It seems like he has committed multiple accounts of fraud, money laundering, and solicitation. It's so bad the members of his own party are asking for a thorough investigation. He falls down on a bed, crushed and defeated. The chief wonders if this guy really is a normal high schooler like he says. The next day at school, Ijin looks outside a window, but suddenly gets a message from Dayun, saying she will go home alone today, and that he should go have some fun, with him wondering what he can do. Young-chan greets him and asks if he has anything to do today, proposing they hang out after school. Ijin agrees, but that's when Lee and Ju approach them, asking if Ijin was the one who sent the 2 siblings overseas. He denies this, but they keep saying that he did, with rumors going around that Ijin went to Kim's base and taking them all down. They invite him to join their group, but he declines, saying he has plans with Youngchan today. They turn their attention to him, terrifyingly looking at him while saying they should all hang out together then. He reluctantly agrees, wondering if they are going to bully him around Ijin too. The teacher comes to class with two new students, a stunning beauty and a handsome boy. Youngchan is surprised by their presence, saying that the girl is named Shin Yuna, the granddaughter of the owner of SW, biggest corporation in the country. And next to her is Go Sukju, who was always together with her, being raised to be her secretary and bodyguard. The teacher says that they studied in America for 2 years, and they will be joining the class from now on, much to the dismay of Lee and Ju, who are lamenting that they have such troublesome schoolmates. They walk to their seats, Ijin and Sukju locking eyes while doing so. Yuna looks at him and asks Sukju who he is, wondering if he is a celebrity. He doesn't know, saying he will check. She looks at him, and they suddenly meet gazes, gently smiling at him. He turns his head around without a moment's thought, her pouting at him for doing his. Youngchan suggests that they should go to a PC cafe, Ijin remembering his training on such things, apparently being instructed by the lieutenant. He was also informed about Koka, or coin karaoke. Youngchan sees Ijin in deep thought, wondering if he doesn't like the things he recommended. When school finished, Yuna sits in class looking down a window. Sukju informs her about Ijin, noting how he suddenly came back to life after such a long window of time. He is suspicious about the fact that it was right before they came, saying he will conduct a thorough investigation. While walking back to his house, he looks at the group chat that they formed, with Lee noting how much Youngchan carried the game they played. It cuts back to what happened, showing us that Ijin is not that skilled at games. Lee and Ju ask what rank Youngchan is, who says that he is challenger. They stare in shock, treating him like a god. While they talk in the group chat, Ijin bumps into his sister who just came out of the store. He asks what he bought, her saying that they ran out of garbage bags and had to go get some. He offers to carry the luggage, but she refuses, saying it's pretty light. Dayun asks about his day, wondering where he went. He says he went to a PC cafe, and also asks her how she's doing at school. She says that it's been fine, being able to be comfortable at school for a while. She asks if he had dinner, and says that she hasn't eaten yet, as she always waits for Grandpa. Even though he ate with his friends, he still accepts the offer, saying he only ate a little. While having dinner, they both compliment Dayun's cooking skills, their grandpa saying it's improving by the day. While enjoying his family time, he can't help but think of the gruesome life he had before. Inside his room, he gets a call from his lieutenant, who asks how he is doing and if there are any problems. Ijin sits in silence for a while, causing the lieutenant to worry that he killed somebody. Ijin calms him down, saying it was a small issue, but he fixed it right away. The lieutenant says that if he ever has trouble, Ijin should call him. The next day at school, Youngchan talks with Lee and Ju about Ijin and Sukju, wondering who would win in a fight. They say that Sukju is out of this league, apparently taking out 30 people on his own, unscathed. They come to the conclusion Ijin has no chance against Sukju. Inside the school, they meet face to face, with Sukju interrogating him as to his real identity. He asks about what happened to Kim and Haijin, Ijin responding that they had some friction, but their transfer has nothing to do with him. Sukju drops one final piece of information, saying that the school where Ijin claimed to have gone before, there was never a student like him. Inside the school, Yuna and Dayun take a break from their classes, relaxing in a break room. They begin talking, mostly about Ijin. Yuna saying that she didn't know Dayun had a brother. She says that they thought he died alongside her parents 10 years ago, and 6 months ago, they found out he was alive. We cut to the moment they received the news, with the grandfather giving Dayun the news while crying his eyes out. Yuna finds it weird that he didn't contact them all this time, but apparently he lost his memories after the incident, with them only coming back recently, clearly a lie done to hide Ijin's past. Yuna finds this curious, being quite suspicious of Ijin now. She still smiles and says that their grandpa must be happy, Dayun saying he even took cooking lessons to prepare for Ijin's coming. Yuna gets serious for a moment, asking Dayun if he really is her brother. She takes a step back, instead asking if they've done a DNA test. Dayun says that they must have done a DNA test before sending him here. Besides, the grandfather says that he looks a lot like he did when he was just a kid. Dayun is curious as to why Yuna is so infatuated with Ijin all of a sudden. She tries to make up an excuse, suddenly asking if Ijin has a girlfriend. It cuts back to Sukju's confrontation, implying that Ijin's documents are fake, saying that his investigation showed that the school he previously attended said that nobody of his likeness ever attended. Ijin asks him for evidence, puzzling Sukju, who thinks that he found this out through word of mouth, and that he doesn't have any physical evidence, but is also surprised at Ijin's expression, making it seem like he was the one making a mistake. Ijin asks why he decided to investigate him, Sukju saying he was too suspicious to not investigate. Silence falls, but Ijin shortly breaks it, saying that his objective was to come back home. Sukju still has suspicions, and will surely try to find any dirt he can on Ijin. Inside the class, Ijin notes how much they found out after only one day. Class ends, and Lee invites them all to play at the PC cafe. Ijin says that he can't, as it's his grandfather's birthday today. Ju says that just the three of them will go, letting us that they are quite friendly with Youngchan now. Sukju tells Yuna all he knows, saying that Dayun was also bullied by Haijin for the last 2 years, thinking it was Ijin who took down Kim's gang, twice. Yuna finds this funny, saying it's almost like a fairy tale that he came back to rescue his sister after so much time. Meanwhile, her siblings are just waiting for the opportunity to take her down, smiling a sad smile while speaking. Yuna says that if he really is coming after her, he should have been more quiet, Sukju agreeing. She asks about the insurance money the grandpa received after the crash, apparently being quite a large sum, growing even more so because he didn't touch it. However, he instantly gave it all to Ijin when he arrived, implying that Ijin's goal was the money. Yuna thinks Dayun might be in danger, as they live in the same house. While shopping, Dayun shyly asks Ijin what he did after the plane crash, his expression instantly turning grim. Dayun notices this, saying he doesn't need to answer. He lies, saying that because of the psychological trauma, he couldn't function that well. After all, he had to survive in a place where he couldn't understand the language. He smiles, saying it was just a busy life. She also tells him that Yuna, apparently a good friend of Dayun's, asked if he has a girlfriend, shocking Ijin a bit. When their grandfather arrives home, they celebrate his birthday, Dayun buying him a gift, a phone case. His voice breaks a bit, saying that he already got a really big present, the fact that Ijin came home. Dayun's phone suddenly rings, and the caller is Yuna, setting Ijin on alert. She says that Yuna invited her to the convenience store, apparently having to tell Dayun something. Ijin is now on full alert, knowing what might happen next. They talk outside of the convenience store, mostly about Yuna's school activities outside of the country. Yuna asks if she ever wanted to study abroad, but Dayun says no, she wouldn't want to leave her grandpa alone after all. But she is a little less worried now that her brother is back home. Yuna is conflicted, thinking about what Sukju said earlier, that all the documents and history of Ijin were all forged or faked, her wanting to tell Dayun everything. Dayun is glad that she was able to talk with someone like this, noting it has been a long time since she did something like this. Ijin spots them talking, trying to approach them slowly. He gets stopped by Sukju, however, who asks him to wait here. He says there is no need to bother two people who are catching up, but that's when a van suddenly hits them, sending both flying. Ijin rises his head and sees that Yuna and his sister have been kidnapped, instantly rising from the ground and running as fast as he can. He cannot catch up, however, as the van disappears into the distance. Sukju and Ijin immediately grab each other by their clothes, Ijin asking who the perpetrators are. Sukju is puzzled, thinking at first that Ijin was somehow involved. They let go, and Sukju calls someone, telling them the details of the kidnapping. Ijin tries to leave but gets stopped, Sukju asking if he is involved in this. Ijin says he has no time to waste, exclaiming he will find his sister. Inside a building, the chief relaxes after a long day, but his relaxation gets cut short, as Ijin appears in front of him. Inside of a tall building, a woman who looks quite similar to Yuna receives the news that she's been kidnapped. She wonders if her grandfather should continue to go after that company, because if he does without bowing to threats, Yuna is surely going to die. The chief looks at Ijin, Sukju taken aback by his appearance. He apparently knows about him already, his name being Cha Dusik, a respectable figure in the underworld. He asks Ijin what he wants, Ijin saying he needs information, and that the granddaughter of the SW Group CEO got kidnapped. His eyes widen, and he immediately says it was not them. You'd have to be insane to mess with such powerful people. Ijin asks if he would have any idea who could have done such a thing. Dusik says that he already got him into so much trouble. Why would he tell him? Ijin says that his sister got kidnapped as well. After hearing this, Dusik finally caves in, saying that he heard reports of people who aren't Korean asking his men for a warehouse, also asking for a large sum of cars, and even some men of his. He declined, saying that kind of work gets pretty iffy. He also heard that a different group took them up on the offer, and that they are based in Incheon. He throws his phone at Ijin, saying to put his number in there, saying that he will call him if his men find the exact location. Ijin also asks for his motorcycle, which was just outside the premises. He gets on the bike, Sukju asking how he could be going after unconfirmed information. Ijin says that Yuna will probably be safe, but the same can't be said for his sister. Who knows what they will do with her? Sukju notes his quick response and his swiftness in getting information. Ijin revs up the bike, dashing on the road, hoping to find Dayun safe. Dayun groggily wakes up, realizing they have been kidnapped, and Yuna apologizes for making her a part of it. The kidnappers approach, and Yuna asks what they want to do with her. One of them says that she doesn't need to know, and that it will all be over soon. Another asks what they should do with Dayun, the other saying to get rid of her, as she serves no purpose. Yuna is furious at this notion, saying that if they touch Dayun, she will bite her tongue and end herself. One of them crouches to her level, saying that she doesn't have the will to do it, encouraging her. He is proven wrong, however, as blood comes from Yuna's mouth from biting her tongue. He gives up, saying she bought some time with that bluff. Ijin and Sukju arrive at the warehouse, seeming like the information Dusik gave was true. Ijin begins to walk towards it, but Sukju tries to stop him, saying there will be reinforcements soon. Ijin doesn't have time to spare, however, as Dayun is in much more danger than Yuna. They make short work of a few guards, taking them out silently. Sukju notes how used Ijin is to this kind of thing, asking once again who he is. Ijin replies, saying that he is just his classmate. With a fiery red in his eyes, he seems determined to rescue his sister. The SW CEO sits inside his office, and a subordinate of his says they have received the demands from the kidnappers. They want him to cancel the recently settled business venture, also saying that if he doesn't respond in an hour, Yuna dies. The CEO asks when the escort team will arrive at Yuna's location, the subordinate saying in approximately 50 minutes. He shakes a bit after hearing this. Outside the warehouse, two guards wonder why they were made to do this many patrols. They speak, but suddenly, Ijin hits the nape of a guard, knocking him on his face. He tries to get up quickly, but Ijin has already taken care of his colleague, also knocking him out with a swift kick. Ijin asks Sukju how many he took down, apparently the number being 5. Ijin notes how many they took down, saying that if they combined their numbers, they would get a total of 14 guards. Sukju taken aback by Ijin taking down 9 guards. He asks Sukju about the identity of these kidnappers, but he doesn't know a thing, as they have many enemies. Ijin notes that the real group is with Yuna, saying that these other guys are really useless. He asks Sukju about his wound, his arm being badly hurt from the car hitting them earlier. Ijin's leg also being quite hurt from this. They don't have time to rest, however, as another group of guards notes the missing people. One spots the knocked-out group, but it's too late, as Ijin jumps in for a knee hit, knocking the guy out. The other guy is also shortly dispatched by Ijin, with only a few jabs. Sukju calls for Ijin, saying that after this is over, he will properly apologize for investigating him. Hearing the commotion that was happening outside, the leader of the kidnappers sends some of them out to investigate, unfortunately finding Ijin. They think they should make short work of him, Ijin glaring at them, assessing their abilities. Sukju gets inside, approaching Yuna, who asks how many of her people are outside. Sukju says that none have arrived yet, but doesn't get to finish, as the leader and another person approach from behind, saying he was a real pain since he was always with Yuna. The leader says it was a mistake to come here alone, and the other guy rushed Sukju. They trade blows, him noticing that Ijin was right. These people are way different than the ones outside. Sukju lands a gut punch and a kick, giving him the chance to grab the guy's arm, hitting him in the back with his knee. The leader notes Sukju's abilities, being quite impressed. This is not a friendly spar, however, as the guy Sukju was fighting pulls out a knife, slashing him in 3 different spots. The leader orders his subordinate to finish this quickly, as they need to move locations before the escort team comes. Sukju tries to fight him, but to no avail, as the cuts he received were quite deep, nerfing his abilities. The leader, with a red tinge in his eyes, throws a knife at Dayun, trying to end her. Yuna jumps in front of her, but Sukju jumps in front of Yuna, taking the knife in his lower back. The leader applauds Sukju's stupidity and orders the subordinate to end both Sukju and Dayun. A door slowly opens, however, as Ijin has taken care of all of the goons outside, now more determined than ever to end this. Inside Dusik's building, a subordinate of his asks why he helped Ijin, given that most of the troubles they have now is because of him, and that the Goseong faction is involved, most likely being the kidnappers. Dusik replies that his sister got kidnapped. What can you do? He had to at least help with this. Inside the warehouse, the leader asks who that guy is, finding out it's Dayun's brother, laughing at the thought of him coming to rescue his sister. Ijin asks Dayun if she is hurt anywhere, but she doesn't hear it, as she is screaming at him to get out, as this is much too dangerous. Yuna laments that 2 innocent people got dragged into this because of her. The leader, having had enough of this, already being behind schedule, orders his subordinate to end Ijin first. He tries to attack Ijin, but he redirects the attack directly into the attacker's arm. While holding the knife in the attacker's arm, he gently tells Dayun to close her eyes. She does so, and Ijin lacerates the arm of the attacker, leaving him on the ground, rolling in pain. Sukju notes his knife skills, saying he targeted specific muscles and ligaments to take him down. The leader says that he is not from the escort team, noting his skill and his expression. He pulls out a knife, much larger than Ijin's. He slashes at Ijin, but he dodges instantly, making them trade blows. Ijin stops his attack with a palm attack, causing the leader to back out for a second. They begin fighting once again, with Ijin slashing most of his arm in a second, making the leader wonder if Ijin is better at using the knife. Ijin slashes his arm once again, kicking him in the face also, causing the mask he was wearing to fall off. Angry at Ijin for beating him, he pulls out a handgun, prepared to shoot Ijin. He doesn't get to, however, as Ijin throws the knife into his upper body and swiftly moves to incapacitate him, doing so with one hard palm attack. Yuna and Sukju look at him, sitting still in fear of him. He says to Dayun that she can open her eyes now, gently smiling at her, saying he came to rescue her. Dayun gently caresses Ijin's head, asking if he is hurt. Ijin is taken aback by this, replying that he is fine. She breaks down crying, worrying Ijin quite a bit. Behind them, Yuna looks at Ijin longingly. Inside of a SW-owned hospital, Ijin is waiting at a door, presumably for Dayun. He gets a text, and it's from the group chat he formed with his school friends. They talk a bit, causing Ijin to smile. He leans into his chair, looking at the department he is in, the Mental Health Institute. It cuts to the aftermath of that eventful night, where the kidnappers were arrested. Dayun is getting a checkup, Yuna coming from behind Ijin, saying she should go to the hospital, not only for possible invisible injuries she may have, but also for her psychological health, noting the problems she had with the bully siblings previously. She might need plenty of therapy and treatment. She comes out of the room, saying there's nothing to worry about, and she will have to come only once a week. She asks about Ijin's condition, who says that he only had some bruises and small cuts, but that's about it. She sighs in relief, while Ijin is thinking about what happened and how she might be affected. Dayun goes to ask a question, but stops, thinking that she can't ask him. She can't ask what kind of life he lived before coming to Korea to be able to fight so well. They meet with Yuna, who asks about their checkups and counseling. She also apologizes profusely, with Dayun saying she should stop, as she also apologized yesterday too. Ijin locks eyes with Yuna's guard, who looks at him diligently. Dayun asks about Sukju, saying to Ijin that they should visit him. Inside his hospital room, Dayun thanks him, bowing her head while doing so. He gets flustered, saying it's okay, there's no need for that. She also asks how he is doing, his condition improving by a lot. Yuna and her guard look at Ijin from behind, staring. They say their farewells and leave the room. They begin to discuss Ijin, with the guard saying he can't believe someone so young could defeat so many people. Yuna wonders if it's as impressive, but the guard begins explaining. This isn't as simple as him beating up a lot of people. He silently took down over 10 people who were standing outside, not ending them, only incapacitating them or knocking them out. and even injuries of the two guys in the warehouse. There aren't many people who can use a knife at that level of skill and training, much less in combat. Plus, the two kidnappers in the warehouse and 4 of the soldiers outside were highly trained from a foreign country. Considering this and Sukju's report, Ijin is most likely a trained professional with extensive experience in combat. While walking to their house, Dayun thanks Ijin, saying she's always getting helped. Ijin retorts this, saying he should be the one thanking her, as he feels he can understand a little. He thinks of the time Dayun worried for him, being the first time someone genuinely was worried for his safety. He can finally begin to understand what a family is. Inside the tall building, the woman who is affiliated with Yuna somehow talks about Sukju, praising his capability to rescue her in such a short amount of time. She also laments that Yuna has him, saying that she should be the one to own him. Her subordinate says that there is a strange rumor, however. Sukju did a lot, but it was mostly done by a student from the same class as him, the CEO showing interest in this matter. She is surprised that her grandpa would be involved, wondering if the rumor really is true. While training inside his room, Ijin thinks of how he looked in front of Dayun, training even harder in the process. She calls him to the dining room, saying he should eat some fruit. While there, he asks about her condition, with her saying that he already asked that earlier and that she is fine. She smiles at him, saying he doesn't have to worry about that, her noting that Ijin was worried about the way he looked in front of her. He must think that she's really surprised and would ask him how he learned those moves. But she won't, as he did all of those things to save her. She also won't press him about the past, saying that she couldn't tell Grandpa about the bullying that was occurring either. Some things you just can't say. Dayun's phone suddenly rings, causing her to jump a bit. It's a call from Yuna, inviting Ijin to the convenience store close by. He arrives, seeing the many guards she now has due to the incident. She tells him to sit down, and he does so. She apologizes for getting Dayun mixed up in all of this, but also thanks him for rescuing her. He says that he only did it for Dayun, and knowing this, she would still like to thank him. She says she also won't investigate him no more, his eyes growing cold while staring at her. Yuna says that she had to investigate him, as he was quite suspicious, and a lot of bad things have been happening to her due to the circumstances she is in. Apparently almost being kidnapped in America too, Ijin gets up to leave. But she stops him, saying that her grandfather wants to meet him, wanting to show his gratitude in person. He refuses, saying he wasn't trying to rescue her in the first place. While walking back to his house, he spots one of Dusik's subordinates walking out of an alleyway, bloodied up and bruised. He spots Ijin, saying it's his fault. Evidently, the Goseong clan found out he helped Ijin, causing them to storm Dusik's hideout. At the place, a myriad of goons and their leader corner Dusik, the leader asking why he doesn't give up. Dusik laughs at him, saying that even though he knew his men were on vacation, he was still scared to come alone. One perks up, saying he messed with the congressman, and also with the Goseong guys recently. He tauntingly says he just had to educate them, causing the leader to get mad, ordering his men to tear Dusik up. They try to incapacitate him, but he dodges and deals with them one by one, quite skillfully too. One takes him by surprise, hitting him on the back with a piece of wood. He makes short work of this attacker, but the attack injured him. He notes how many people are him to end him, saying this must be the end of him. He also thinks about Ijin, wondering if he saved his sister. Outside of the building, Ijin arrives on Dusik's bike, with one of the goons that were outside cussing him out, exclaiming he can't be here. His mouth closes, however, when Ijin kicks him right in the chin. It seems he has come to rescue Dusik. He makes short work of the rest that were outside, and while going inside, a terrifying red aura emanates from him. While inside, he gets spotted by a pack of goons who warn him to get out. He is having none of it, however, as he knocks one out instantly, causing the rest to rush him. But with a few quick punches and kicks, he knocks out all but one, who tries to run away. To no avail, as Ijin rushes him with a flying kick, incapacitating the goon instantly. While Dusik is fighting, the leader thinks about his fighting prowess, saying they wouldn't have been able to win if he had more forces. He fights valiantly, but there are too many, and they slowly whittle him down. One says that he should just give up, as they will treat him well if he does so. He refuses, smiling sinisterly, saying they should go until the end, causing everyone to sweat a bit at his expression. They begin hearing the commotion Ijin is causing, wondering what is happening. He arrives, coming out of a hallway directly into the room, one wondering who this brat might be. Dusik asks him why he's here, and Ijin says he just had to return the motorcycle. One of the leaders laughs at this notion, ordering his men to mess Ijin up too. Dusik warns them, saying they should let him go. The leader scoffs, saying they can't let him go. But it would be Ijin who would let them go, as he eliminates the goons that attacked him swiftly, causing the leaders to panic. Dusik says he forgot to tell them something about him, that being that even he can't beat that guy. More rush him, but no dice, as Ijin is unbeatable. While having their attention set on Ijin, Dusik takes this opportunity to eliminate the leaders. After the fight, Dusik falls down, huffing from how tired he is. Ijin stands above him, with his knuckles bloodied up. He says that the debt has been repaid, with Dusik thinking it must be about the information he gave Ijin. He asks what happened to his sister, Ijin saying that thanks to him, they managed to save her in time. Dusik's subordinate wakes up in a hospital bed, screaming for his boss. He is right next to him, however, looking at his subordinate with tired eyes. He asks his boss how he got here, who says he got hurt and took a cab here. He asks about the clans that attacked him, the Goseong and the Seongsu clans. He says they've all been taken care of. Dusik also says that he must have met Ijin, the subordinate, saying that he got pissed after the attack and went to look for him. When he met Ijin, he wasn't thinking straight, so he ran up to him in rage. He was quickly knocked out by Ijin, however, sending him to the hospital in the process. Dusik thought he was at death's door when he saw all the clan men kept pouring in, but Ijin appeared, taking down everyone on both sides, leaving without looking back afterwards, saying his debt was paid. High subordinate notes how cool that is, wondering what kind of monster he really is. Dusik jokes, saying he is just a normal high schooler. While playing football, Ijin catches the ball out of instinct, much to the dismay of his friends. The game ends, and they ask Ijin if he wants to go play at the PC cafe. Ijin says that he will come later, since he has to take his sister home today. They say that a spot will be saved for him. While packing up to go home, Dayun thinks about what kind of soup she should make when she arrives home. But her thoughts get interrupted, as she hears Ijin's name coming out of a classmate's mouth. A few girls are looking outside at the boys, all of them admiring Ijin. They go to Dayun, asking her if Ijin has a girlfriend. They wait for the answer impatiently, Dayun saying that he doesn't, and they rush in embarrassment out of the door. While going out of the school gate, Dayun notes how popular Ijin is, even Yuna asking about him frequently. She wonders why he doesn't have a girlfriend yet. Perhaps no one of interest has come into his life yet. She spots Ijin, who is talking with his friend at the school gate. She greets them. Lee, flustered by this, greets her too. They all go ahead without Ijin, saying they will wait for him. Dayun asks if he made plans with them, him saying he is going to go after stopping by their house. Dayun knows it's because of her, saying she is fine, and it's even bright outside. He doesn't have to keep doing this. She even refused a bodyguard Yuna proposed, feeling like she wouldn't be able to live a normal life if she went that far. He caves in, but he will still walk with her from time to time, not because he is worried, but because he enjoys her company. He spots Yuna's acquaintance, who is waiting for him just outside the school. They ask who she is. She is Yuna's cousin, who says she wanted to thank them properly, perhaps by taking them out to dinner. Ijin refuses, saying he was already thanked by Yuna, so there is no need for such things. She is surprised at this refusal, saying she also has some things to ask him. He walks by her, however, annoyed at her constant nudging. He is not interested. She is even more surprised now, her guard asking if he should get them. She says to leave him, thinking he blatantly looked annoyed in front of her. At the PC cafe, Young-chan excuses himself to the bathroom, but while heading there, he bumps into a person who curses at him for not watching where he is going. Young-chan apologizes profusely. The guy prepares a slap, clearly trying to bully Young-chan. Lee steps in, however, confronting the bully directly, clearly scaring him. With one final glare from Lee, the bully backs off. Lee looks at Young-chan, saying they should go. Ju is going to be mad if they are late. They arrive back at the PCs, Ju asking what took them so long. Lee explains the situation, saying a student from Gosuk Technical High was trying to bully Young-chan. Ju asks Young-chan if he is all right, and he says that because of Lee, he was saved. At the entrance of the PC cafe, it seems like the bully came back with reinforcements. They walk to the group's table, who are too focused on the game to notice them instantly. Ju sees them, the bully saying to follow them outside. Young-chan thinks about the situation, thinking that things escalated because of him. The bully taunts them, thinking that they had more guys if they were so cocky in the first place. Lee mockingly says that he is acting tough now that he has backup, causing the bully to snap, throwing a punch at Lee. It doesn't hit, however, as he dodges and slaps the bully across the face. Young-chan is even more worried now, thinking that if he was more careful, none of this would have happened. Lee reassures him, saying it's not his fault, it's these guys. Ju notes that he stole this line from Ijin, with Lee flaring up in embarrassment. The bullies, having had enough of their playing around, charge them directly. Lee and Ju fight the bullies, making short work of most of them. They tell Young-chan to stay back, saying that they are the high ranks at this. He laments this, thinking that this was all because of him. They keep fighting, noting how these guys get back up constantly. One lands a swift blow on Lee, causing him to stumble, a perfect opportunity for a punch. He gets saved by Young-chan, however, who summons all his might to knock the bully down, allowing Lee to knock him out with a kick. It seems that they have defeated them all, with Lee asking Young-chan if he is okay. Young-chan apologizes once again, saying it was his fault that this happened, with Lee reassuring that he had no fault in this. Ijin texts them, wondering where they are. They pop out from behind a corner, saying that he missed a wicked 6 versus 3. They go back into the cafe, and are surprised by all the guys Ijin beat down. Ijin says that they attacked him due to the uniform that he was wearing. The group looks in awe at him. Thank you for watching. See you next time.